The Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Sabzu, the Rated R Radio Star here. Well, this is, so you're hearing a little intro to the second, the second of one of two, boy, I'm confusing the fuck out of myself. This is the second Hangout for the month of May 2017. Live Google Hangout Q&A, and this one was a lot of fun. A lot of great questions, some questions which I don't exactly have a great answer for, but how about that? But a lot of fun stuff that got brought up, especially in the YouTube live channel, in the little chat, YouTube live chat. Which, let me know if you have any feedback on how this whole episode kind of went down. Let me know. But something that happened, there were technical issues with the first Hangout, and I had to actually, create a whole other room and send out new links through Patreon. Fortunately, everybody was able to come back on and, and ask their questions. But it was one of those situations where we ran into issues with Hangouts. But there were a couple conversations in, the first little Hangout room that I had, which went 15 minutes or something. I'm not going to play the whole 15 minutes, but I'm going to put in some conversation that's a little bit that might seem out of place, but I want it to be there kind of for completeness. So you're getting the ultimate edition of the May 31st, 2017 live Sovryn Tech Google Hangout Q&A. And so I thought I'd just do a little intro, to explain why, the audio might sound disjointed for at first it'll be talking about this, and then suddenly, boop, oh, hello, we're here for the next Hangout, So anyway, just so you know how that goes down. But yeah, and of course we have another one of these coming up in June. And also, if you're wondering where is the regular Q&A that's not the live Hangout version, that will be coming out tomorrow, that being Thursday, June 1st. So you'll have that to you June 1st. And anyway, there it is. Let's get to this really fun live show. I really enjoyed interacting with everybody. Had a great time. So, and of course, one of these a month at least. If they get popular enough, hell, we might do a bunch of them. So here we go. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. All right. So now everybody can hear me. I have no idea what the hell is going on there. Allow me a moment of some seltzer. I swear it's not vodka. Okay. Though supposedly that new Pepsi Fire, supposedly that tastes like vodka, but it's not alcoholic. There we go. Okay, I think we're looking good now that we've got everything set up. So, all right. We are here for the second May Sovryn Tech live Q&A Hangouts using Google Hangouts. I'll tell you something, a little secret. I might end up switching over stuff to Microsoft's Mixer. They have some pretty exciting things going on there, and it has a lot more capabilities to do some wild shit, because I love doing wild shit all the time. But for now, we're using Hangouts, so we'll let this ride. But yeah, wow, we already got a couple people ready and waiting in the Hangouts room. So we'll get to those in just a second. I'll tell you something. This was amazing. So today, if you notice, the links didn't come out right at 3:00. Part of that problem was, and I should have scheduled it earlier and I didn't, but I was actually upgrading my Dell 7559 laptop to a solid state drive, because originally it had a hybrid drive in it. It was just slogging, and you could hear it, and there was points where it would whistle and was about to go out. It's really, really crazy. I recommend this laptop without reservation. I think the 7559 is just a great laptop. Now they have a newer model as well out there that has a much better video card in it. But the one thing is, if you do get, the 7559 or whatever, boy, make sure you get an SSD in that either initially or get one in there. That's definitely the one thing it needs. The nice thing is this thing had an M2 slot. So I could even still have the 1 terabyte hard drive that was in it and just operate off of the M2 slot. But instead, just to save battery and to, just for speed's sake, and so it isn't so loud, because, hard drives are loud. I just put the M2 in, and boom, and use the Acronis cloning software, and away it goes. And boy, I think I posted this on social media earlier, and I was like, man, it's the thing booted up so fast and all my software was up so quick. I'm pretty sure I heard Vin Diesel say "Mi Familia" in the back of my head, because it was blazing. So, oh yeah, solid state drives. That's a whole conversation that I could have. There's good things and bad things certainly about them. So anyway, let's see. Why don't we start getting into the questions? Woo! Okay, we are live, baby. And wow, I hope that woo didn't just bother anybody because this could be a little loud. Google's supposed to handle all that stuff, but whatever. Let's see. We got people hanging out in the live chat, ready to rock and roll. Well, they're going to be coming on board. And oh, beautiful. Okay. All right, so this is flying again. We had a little technical issues before. I blame Google for everything, like almost literally. Even though sometime maybe I'll tell the story about how I used to be a huge Google fanboy, right on Sovryn Tech. Like I would tell everybody, yeah, buy a Chromebook. This is going to be great, and all this shit. But I did a complete 180 after about a year or two, maybe, and. Yeah, I think some people would be interested in hearing about that. So, because I mean, I really loved Google, but yeah, shit changes, and I like to think, not to pat myself on the back, but I like to think that when somebody can have such a drastic change of mind, that they're that's not what are the comparisons? Is it the hedgehog? Not Sonic, of course. It's the hedgehog, or there's another animal that like the hedgehog buries his head in the sand when things go crazy, and it's like the hedgehog and the fox or something. And well, anyway, maybe I'm a fox. Woo! How about that? I'll take it. All right. So why don't we get to? I'm not going to waste any more time. Maybe I will include some of the audio where I told a little story about my new SSD. Maybe I'll splice it all together, and the audio version will be kind of the definitive, complete version of this second May Hangout for Sovryn Tech. Woo! That's only for patrons, and everybody gets to have a good time and talk it up. And I've already got a couple people ready to talk it up, so I want to get right to them. And actually, I want to start with Daniel. I think I know Daniel to some degree, and he might have like a hard limit on time. So we'll start off with Daniel, and then we got Benjamin Shade here, if that's his real name. And so Daniel, go ahead. What do you got, man?
Yeah, I actually do have a hard limit on time. I'm going to go pick up my daughter from daycare.
There you go. All right.
15, 20 minutes. So.
See, I care about children. I really do. So
there you go.
All right.
It was fun. I was on mute, but when you said that you did a complete 180, I was saying to myself that Google also did a complete 180 a couple of years back. So it's not.
Good point. Yeah, great point. Actually, yeah.
You only follow.
Oop! I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, not yeah. Now I hear you. I only follow them. What? Sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, you're only following as long as the trajectory was going the same way. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Good point.
So I have a question, and it's a little funny that I'm asking this question after we have some technical issues, but you'll understand why when I get to the end of the question. So
sure.
When people work in like a regular job, you get positive feedback, you get negative feedback, evaluations at the end of the year, etc. If you're an entrepreneur, you based on your bottom line, you somewhat get a positive feedback or negative feedback, and also to some degree when you're doing something like what you're doing, which is very much sort of for donations only. When you get the shout outs from the right people, put it that way, and when you get donations, patrons on Patreon, etc., that is positive feedback. But it's a little difficult when you're not really selling anything to see when you're getting negative feedback or when you should be sort of changing things around, or like I'm curious as far as you're concerned, and especially you who you don't really care about what other people think. You do the show if it was just an audience of one yourself. You're very, very much in terms of like the posts that I see on Facebook. You're not afraid of sticking it to the man, whoever the man is. And I'm curious because you do have a lot of followers who are like right on board with what you're saying, especially, if you are agitating, the right people. My question to you, that was a very long-winded question. My question to you is what do you see in yourself that, gives yourself an indication that there is like negative feedback or constructive? But what do you consider sort of something that makes you think, oh, maybe I didn't do this right? I mean,
well, so this is a really tough. Actually, it's a great question. And with entrepreneurship, which what you're describing a bit, I mean, like the answer is pretty varied because it depends sort of on what you're putting out there, kind of what your product is. Like in my case, this is something I really struggle with because I don't, I mean, and not that this is anything new for me or like it's a 21st century problem. Like, I mean, for example, a shock jock like Howard Stern, like his negative feedback was still seen as positive feedback.
Yeah.
Like the fact that people listened because they wanted to know what he'd say next because they wanted to get enraged. And then there's people who wanted to hear what he had to say next because they loved him, and that's so like I really don't exactly know like what I don't, other than maybe losing Patreon dollars, I don't, losing patrons, which has happened. I generally don't know what negative feedback could be. Like I can't really see it. Like I can't like say on Facebook. In fact, Stephanie and I were talking about this just the other day. Like I can't really tell when somebody unfollows me necessarily, and I don't pay attention to my numbers like that. Like especially with Facebook, which is kind of an afterthought for me in a way. I guess I kind of don't have an answer because I don't really know like the negative feedback, and there's no incentive. This is the thing. Unless somebody like I guess really cares about me or something like that, or is worried that I'm falling from grace, after a fashion. There's no incentive for somebody to tell me like that there's something wrong. The only time they have that incentive is when because this is how it shows up is these people, I get hate mail all the time, but it's always the same people, or it's not always the same people, but it's a lot of the same people. And, it's like, I know they just listened to the last episode based on what they're complaining about. And it's like, why are you still listening to me? So that like, kind of like the Howard Stern thing, that's not really negative. Like that's not literally negative feedback because they're still digging it, and then they're still giving me the numbers, which is, and the listener numbers are what I need to get advertisers. So again, yeah, that's I don't exactly know how to answer the question because I don't, unfortunately, and I wish I kind of did. I mean, other than like if I made like what was not Grease Monkey, whatever that polling software is, or the polling service that Survey Monkey. Thank you. Stephanie just told me, but other than using like Survey Monkey, which I haven't done yet, just because I don't really want to collect information about my listeners. I can't, I can't really get, like, I don't know how to get that negative feedback. I have done Patreon polls, and those actually, people gave me a lot of great feedback in that. Like they said that, oh yeah, we tried to share the show with people, but as soon as they hear the moaning, they stop listening. They're like, oh no, I don't want to hear that. So, I mean, that's like the only negative feedback that I can really think of in my head that has like, a direct negative effect. That's really the thing is like what has a direct negative effect. And that's the only one that I can think of. So how does that answer how do you feel about that answer, Daniel?
Yeah, I was actually curious. I wasn't really, I don't know what kind of answer I was expecting because, it's easy to get that answer from someone who is very much a people pleaser, and you're not. And I mean, you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean. I love you, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But in the sense of someone who's has a very distinct sort of idea of what they want to portray. It's a lot more difficult to sort of say, if I lose 10 listeners, but I gain 100 listeners, and from a different audience, does that count as negative or positive? You wouldn't necessarily know until you make that call, and it kind of the question kind of came to me one of the recent shows. I think it might have even been the most recent one where you and Stephanie were talking about what's the how at first you would just caveat everything and say, it's okay if you guys have a family, but I'm not going to do it this way. And it took a while before you actually went out and said, no, this is what this is the way I believe it to be.
Sure.
So there obviously has been an evolution as far as the show's concerned, and as far as you're concerned, in terms of what you're willing to put out there. And I was just wondering whether that was a conscious effort on your part to say, okay, I know that this is not. I'm not being true to myself, and this is some kind of an internal sort of motivating thing, and that's kind of the negative feedback that you kind of gave yourself, the constructive feedback that you gave yourself, or whether there was something else kind of in the background that it was just kind of like I'm trying to get inside your head. I think I have a picture of who you are, and then you can tell the perfectionists because that's kind of they're the ones who are going to be their harshest critics, and you can tell the people who are super laid back because they all the errors in the world can just roll off their shoulders and they wouldn't care. I haven't managed to pin you down into any one of those categories, and
right on. Yeah, I don't know where I'd fit in that. I will tell you that, like, I mean, it's not negative feedback, but positive feedback from a lot of people just saying, the one thing I do get is emails from people, and obviously it's because they want to know what I think. So there's their incentive to let me know, to tell me this. But they'll often say, what are you waiting for? Like, no, or why are you worried? Just say it. Just, like I get that kind of feedback all the time of, just say the wildest thing in the world. Yeah. Like, I mean, one of my biggest fears over the years would be talking about some of my crazy historical theories. But that's where I always get positive feedback. I mean, and in fact, like the episodes, whenever I get into some kind of historical shit, I mean, like the listener numbers are through the roof every time. So, I do get positive feedback that kind of guides me in what I feel comfortable about saying. And, but I don't know, at the same time, maybe it's just, for me, maybe it's just the years, it's like, okay, well, this has been going 5 years. People still listen, so I can just say whatever I want. I mean, I don't know exactly that's my line of thinking either. Cause I at the end of the day, I really do care about what at least some people think, and I really do love, my listeners. And so I'm not, I'm not full rogue or anything, just like, I don't give a shit. But, I appreciate what you're saying. I don't exactly know how to pin myself. So.
Awesome. Cool.
All right, Daniel. That's it. Thanks, man. Good to hear from you. All right. So, now I'm going to have this go probably till 5:30, just to give everybody time to either get back in. It looks like everybody that was the least in earlier is back in. So, I'll let this run a little longer and then go grab some dinner. But let's see, we got Benjamin Shade here. If he wants to unmute himself, and you can jump on in, start asking your questions. Oh no, I can't hear Ben. Oh no. Nah. Oh man, check out the sprocket. He's plugging stuff in. This is, boy, if you're getting the little view on YouTube, this is pretty cool. Well, while he's all right, he's logging in, logging back out. Once he was able to talk earlier, so I know we had this licked.
Hello.
There we go. All right, you're in, man.
Dude, it's something weird with my Mac.
Oh yeah, well it's a Mac. I mean, what are you talking about? Of course, that's the problem right there.
And I'm like, it screens.
Yeah. All right, what do you got, Ben? Go for it, man.
Yeah. So first, I want to do is just a little plug for RetroShare. I've been
please, yes. So you are the guy, I want to be real quick. You are the guy that has set up a RetroShare that people can, and I put the link, I hope I've been putting them on all the Q&As. I put the link or the key, I should say, the public key to get access to this RetroShare that has all this great content on there that you are providing, and I need to add to, and I'm going to. I've actually been working on that. I had, like some people may have heard earlier, I was actually, putting in a new hard drive, and so that's part of it. But yeah, go ahead and plug it, because I think this is beautiful, and I really appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, so one of the first things I did to get everybody on board is I've been trying to go back and do like top eights or something, get the material in there and organize it. So I do have the Sovryn Top 8 regular movies folder that has every movie mentioned by Brian during that entire episode. And I've been noticing some pings on the RetroShare server, but no one's traded keys with me yet. So maybe they're adding my key and trying, and be cool if you'd reciprocate and send your key my way. But
yeah, absolutely. So people, anyone that RetroShare is this awesome. It's been around for a while. I've talked about it for a long, long time. It still gets actively developed. It's this great, like, how to even describe it, because it does so much. It's really an internet replacement. Like that's the way I think of it, because it can do everything. It can even do video calling, audio calling, file transfers, and it can work on a LAN. It doesn't have to work over the traditional big bad internet, but it does as well. I mean, it is such a feature-rich communication platform and transfer, data transfer platform. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's such a shame more people aren't on board with it. But yeah, Aaron, you set up one for Sovryn Tech where like everything going on with Sovryn Tech, whatever gets mentioned. Did you say all of Babylon 5 is up on that?
Yeah, Babylon 5. I've got Spartacus, all of that. Season 1 through 3 now of Silicon Valley. I'm like posting them as I watch them with my wife.
Oh man, I love Silicon Valley. Stephanie and I watch that like the day after. We watch it every time. That is this season's been pretty hilarious too. Such a good show.
Yeah. There's also stuff on there like channels. You can make your own channels to post video clips of cats, I guess, or links. I've been posting links to websites that I find. You can start forums and things on there. I mean, it's all PGP encrypted. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the other nice thing is, this is all encrypted, like all the way, across the board. I mean, you have to set up your PGP key and everything as soon as you install the software, and you just trade keys with each other. It's just like doing, PGP email, which I know isn't always the easiest thing, but this is about as, in my opinion, almost as simplistic as it can get. So, Aaron, I really appreciate you setting that up and having it there, and I'll try pushing it some more too, because I'd really love to get everybody kind of connected on that as an alternative, just in case, say, if anything ever happened to Patreon. At least this way we could all connect through that. So,
yeah, and so if you don't mind, I had another question that's a little bit more philosophical.
Oh boy!
All right. It was a few years ago. I asked you about. I gave you basically the cosmological argument for a creator.
Man, I remember this. Stephanie and I did a response. I remember very well. Yeah, keep
very
going.
Kindly. And so I had remembered prior to that, you had been saying the evidence was that there was a beginning and you were inclined to believe that. And since then, you made the logical change in your mind to suggest the universe could be infinite, eternal.
Yes.
So I feel like following that to its logical conclusion, if the universe is eternal, then anything that can happen did happen. So if evolution is true, then there should be an infinitely evolved thing. Either that or there's a limit to the evolution of consciousness.
I think I see where you're going with this. So are you saying that that something should have evolved to near godhood by now? Is that the gist?
If it's possible.
If it's possible, yeah.
Right. If an infinite level of evolution is possible. So if we can create an AI that would go exponential in intelligence, it could evolve to propagate itself through the whole universe. So if that's not possible, then that would also not only explain why there's no aliens, because at some point there's like a point we can't reach or surpass.
Yeah, which they call the great filter.
Right.
Yeah.
So either there's a great filter or then the universe can't be eternal, right? Either way.
Okay. So I like this. So I want to reiterate quick just my position on this. So there was a theory, a paper, whole thing done up. I believe it was out of the University of Alberta that said that, it is possible within our understanding of physics. I'm being very basic here. It is possible under our understanding of physics that there is no beginning to the universe, that it's always been and it just kind of always will be. Now, there's a lot of other things that need to be described around that. Now, the initial reason that's attractive to me, and longtime Patreon listeners might know about this because I think I did like a whole Q&A episode about the beginning of the universe or about the Big Bang. Because the Big Bang doesn't sit well with me. Now, I'm an atheist, and there's too many really, really big holes in the theory of the Big Bang. Uniform temperature. There's all of these real problems that the Big Bang does a terrible job of trying to explain. So yeah, having an alternative cosmology is very attractive to me. Also, the other reason that it was attractive to me, so I'm admitting bias here. The other reason it's attractive to me is that Epicurus, who's one of the most famous hedonists of all time, maybe I'll outdo him someday. No, I'm kidding. I'll never be that popular. But Epicurus also claimed that there was no beginning to the universe. In fact, that was, in Judaism and Christianity, one of the reasons or in Judaism particularly, being a follower of Epicurus and what he said is like this unforgivable sin. It's like it's the Christian. It's analogous to the Christian saying that suicide, or like Catholics particularly, is that suicide is the unforgivable sin, or Protestants would say that denying the Holy Spirit would be the unforgivable sin or something like that. Like in Judaism, being called an Epicurean is just like, it's terrible. It's the most anathema thing that could happen to you, partly because one of Epicurus's beliefs or statements, he was an atomist, so he didn't necessarily see it as a belief. He saw it as a scientific, precept, was that the universe had no beginning. And that smacks Genesis 1:1 right in the face. You can't avoid that. That becomes an initial problem, and it kind of disproves the book from verse 1, or disproves Torah. So that's part of the reason, admittedly, I'm looking for alternative cosmologies, so that's why that becomes very attractive to me. But just to explain kind of that background, now that's not really answering your question of, what's the deal? Why aren't we, is there the chance that some kind of, super being has evolved? Why aren't we seeing them? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not terribly opposed to the notion that that there's something that evolved to have somewhat godlike powers. Again, it's not a creator, because my claim is that the universe had no beginning, so it can't exactly create. But I think there's other reasons I think that we're not seeing a whole lot of life. Of course, the other thing is that so I get your premise. I like your premise, or I'm not saying I like it. I understand your premise that if it's always been here, then everything that can happen should have happened. And why hasn't it happened? Why aren't we seeing aliens? Blah, 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 blah. Again, to me, now math's objective, but kind of how large a number in math is kind of subjective. On a long enough timeline, even a billion years seems like nothing, right? Yeah. So, I think what it takes to achieve conscious life, and I've said this before, and I hope this isn't some kind of cop out or something, and you're free to call me out on it if it is. But I just really think that the what it takes for consciousness to come into existence is so mathematically near impossible, in my opinion. In fact, that I think that's partly, again, why we see so few, or why we don't see any signs of alien life and all that. Not to say it's not out there, and I want to be careful with sapient life and and just animal life. Sapient life being something with full on consciousness, acts outside of instinct and all that. Again, that's what it comes down to for me. It's just the chances that it's going to occur are just exceptionally rare. Go ahead and give me a response to that, because.
Yeah, no, I've had this discussion with my friend. He's a PhD in mathematics, and
Sure.
he's an atheist as well. And I would call myself a materialist at this point, but not quite an atheist.
Sure. Yep.
Because we were discussing the improbability. I'm a biologist. I got my MS in molecular biology, and
oh yeah, I'll vouch for you. You're a smart guy.
And I was arguing against the probability of evolution from nothing, from inorganic matter, the first cell essentially. And he just said, well, he believes something. We got back to the beginning of the universe, and he's like, well, I believe the universe is eternal. And either whether you believe in a creator or you believe in the universe being eternal, something has to go back. There's no first cause. You can't have a finite back. Then what started that? So
yeah,
as long as you have that eternal thing starting whatever it is, everybody believes in eternity in some form or another, I guess.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Even Richard Dawkins, guys like this, who are full on atheists and whatever, they'll kind of backhanded admit to say something like ancient alien theory or ancient astronaut theory, as it's more particularly called, where they'll say, yeah, maybe something kickstarted life on Earth. They don't write it off, which good for them for being scientifically honest about that, or intellectually honest, I guess I should say.
Well, I guess my point was he's like, well, with a long enough time we'll have people, and well, if with a long enough time, then if it's possible for us to propagate to the universe, something should have already done it. If it's possible for us to create AI and you have this eternal universe, then AI should propagate itself. Even if we can't travel light years, this AI should be able to continue propagating itself.
Yeah. So obviously, and this has been a topic on Sovryn Tech quite a bit lately. I'm I'm not, and there was a time where I might have felt a little different. I'm not entirely convinced that like artificial intelligence to the level of consciousness of like something that mimics to some degree or supersedes human consciousness. I don't know that can actually be created, because you're right. Then that thing should be, once you have machine life, I mean, it can just constantly repair itself and, assume, or seemingly ad infinitum. And I mean, and it would be out there and it'd be propagating everything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No, I mean, you're raising a great question, but I think it's one we might go back and forth, for as long as humans can exist on. So.
Right. But even if it's not true AI, just an algorithmic thing, say you build a perfect hedge trimmer that's able to self-repair and propagate itself through the universe, you could have an algorithm that transformed the universe infinite number of times through an infinite history, and we're just the latest iteration of some algorithm run amok from some universe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something, yeah, I get it. Like, and I think at the end you're trying to find like, okay, what's the first cause of all this though? Why isn't there some kind of first, like, if you don't think there's a first cause, where the hell is it? Or, why didn't it come in? Oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel like most atheists kind of gloss over it, and they try and find some way to talk about further down the line towards evolution or towards like the last 100,000 years or something. They don't talk about these epistemological questions, I guess, like the beginning.
Well, where I stop and where I really want a lot more exploration, like, I mean, we admittedly, we don't understand consciousness very well. Or at least, my limited understanding of our, humanity's understanding, not as a collective intelligence, but, what's out there, we don't understand consciousness. So, I mean, even like finding the origin of that, and, another area where this becomes a flaw, I think a lot of it comes, with language. I mean, like we have a hard time describing so many things going on, and language can limit thought. I mean, I love the saying that, when you learn another language, you gain another soul. Obviously, I don't believe in a soul, but the idea is the same, is that suddenly you have like a new way to think, and yeah, I think there's some aspects that we haven't licked yet, that we haven't exactly figured out. And that's kind of the best answer, I guess, that I can give, is that, yeah, I mean, we still need to understand consciousness. And then maybe we can figure out, how human consciousness at least came into being, and then maybe answer, why isn't there more, or why is there more, or, what's going on with all that. So, I don't think that's the best answer for what you're saying, but
I just wanted to raise a tough question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, let's do a live Q&A hangout. And, okay, let's start. So why are we here? And we'll go with the big stuff, right? Yeah. So no, I love the question, and I mean, certainly I totally applaud and appreciate, the pursuits of finding those kinds of answers. I have, me personally, like, I have other avenues that I'm, like I said, kind of, where does consciousness come from? What is ownness? Things like this that I've talked about, that I'm trying to figure out, as well. So, and maybe those would then, proceed to the answers to maybe the questions you're looking for, but I don't expect to come up with those either, because I'm just a little Jew from New York. So, so there you go.
You may want to check out Chimera Systems Incorporated. They just put out their beta for what they're calling the first AGI.
Oh,
Nigel.
Okay, Nigel. Wow, that's a good name. Okay, yeah. I will look into that. Somebody actually or go ahead.
No, they said it's a quantum. They're imitating a quantum system with a neural net of smartphones. So they're trying to take away the data. It's done some pretty cool things, but.
All right. No, I'll look into that. There was a book that a Sovryn Tech listener actually recommended that I check out, and I did just get the copy in earlier this week. And I think it's called Creation by Stephen Grand. Stephen Grand's really well known for, he's like a legendary video game designer. And supposedly his claim is that, yeah, we are already like creating AGI and we just don't realize it, blah, blah, blah. The book's actually from 2001. So his claims are definitely pretty extraordinary. But I haven't read it yet, but I will. And I'll look into Nigel as well. I think that's, what was the name again of the company that came up with it? Chimera?
Yeah, Chimera Systems.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, I'll check that out. So anyway, Ben, yeah, great, great question. I don't know that I gave it the best answer, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Always keep me on my toes because, oh man, yeah. No, so all right, yeah. Thanks so much, Ben. I'm going to take a look at what do we got going on in the live chat here, and then we'll get to that, and then let's see what else we got here. Oh, that's weird. That's looking so odd in the YouTube channel. Anyway, nobody wants to hear me talk about that. Let's see, what do we got in the live chat? I know you're pretty on point when it comes to consumer electronics, the internet, and that sort of thing, but I don't know how well knowledgeable you are about producer goods and their technology. I've been fascinated by shows like How It's Made. And that's the name of a show. So anytime I see a new product, I have a good idea how it was produced, except one thing. How the hell does Arizona iced tea still $1 in a tall can? That's some serious Kevin Mitnick hacking shit. How is this even possible? Also, what's your favorite? Mine is the Peach Zero. Boy, that Arizona iced tea, I used to drink that actually quite a bit. Even when I moved to New Hampshire, I was still drinking that stuff. Are they the ones that make, do they make the Arnold Palmer, where it's like the half lemonade, half iced tea? Boy, did I enjoy the hell out of that. I think Arnold Palmer is also like an alcoholic drink, and I don't drink, but not the hard stuff, but anyway, yeah, that was probably my favorite as far as that goes. I'm pretty sure that was like an Arizona made thing. Let's see, ostrich. Yes. Okay. Yep. So I got confirmation that is in Arizona. Yeah. So that was my favorite, was that mixed iced tea and lemonade. Boy, that was so damn good. Let's see. I love negative feedback on my podcast. Well, I'll give a plug here. So this is, the guy asking this is Jim Jesus, and he is the host creator as well of the Lulberts, which I enjoy, especially when he has MK Lords on, because MK Lords is just, she's phenomenal. But Jim Jesus, he's all right too. No, he's more than all right. He's cool. So, yeah. Negative feedback to the podcast. That was a great question. And again, the answer I gave, I mean, like, I don't exactly know. I don't even know how to get negative feedback. Like, it would really take somebody. I mean, the irony is that, and kind of the circular, I guess, logic of it is that the person would have to actually like me to really have the incentive to send me negative feedback. So, like, it's not exactly negative feedback, right? So again, it comes down to those negative consequences, and they're very tough to see online. Like, I mean, that's almost impossible to see on the internet. How do you really see negative consequences? Unless suddenly, like, I guess on Twitter, if suddenly I lost, 5,000 followers or something, because I'm over 10,000 right now, maybe that would be seen that way. I don't know. Anyway, let's read on some more here. Do you think the prime directive is why aliens haven't come here and given us technology to make the state disappear? Or do you think that they are on their way now because fiends and FTL signals got there? I love it. Well, I'll tell you a quick funny story on that. When I was a Christian, I was a Seventh-day Adventist. That's embarrassing. But here we go. Some negative feedback. Not enough hot naked women. Oh, please. I know you're kidding, but come on. What are you talking about? Do you need any more than what I put on? I mean, shit. Anyway. All right. So let's see. Yeah. So the prime directive. Okay. So Adventists hold, well, I mean, sometimes they hold a few different theories, but they're kind of unique in that, they don't just believe, I mean, they are Bible believing, but they also believe in the inspiration of a woman named Ellen G. White, who is a prophetess from the 19th century. It's not unironic. I've talked about this before, but I think in upstate New York, in the middle of the 19th century, there had to be something in the water, because you get both Joseph Smith and you get, the entire, you get the Mormon movement and the Adventist movement out of the same exact area, pretty much around the same time. And they all sort of hold kind of a lot of same ideas. For example, like that Christianity has kind of been perverted and Christians have lost their way. And so here's the secret interpretation, like just with Mormons, instead you have the works of Joseph Smith, like Pearl of Great Price and all of that. And also, they're like, oh yeah, don't drink caffeine. I don't think Mormons espouse any kind of veganism or vegetarianism. Adventists do. I mean, really, like where that's easy to explain where that came out of, because that came out of just kind of the more fringe health advice of the 19th century and like the middle 19th century. So it's not shocking, to hear about like that they have that kind of what some people see as inspiration because, oh, modern science proves it, which I would debate, but whatever. So, so Adventists, again, they hold a lot of different beliefs, but one of their beliefs is that there are other planets. There is alien life out there, but yes, they would not come anywhere near the planet Earth because why would they want to encounter sin? Sin is the worst thing in the universe. So they wouldn't even want to see what sin looks like. It's so horrendous, so anathema, to what they know of as existence as, quote unquote, creations of God. Yeah, I mean, like the idea that aliens maybe follow some kind of prime directive. I mean, I'm reminded of, and I know the question's kind of a joke, but I mean, I'm kind of reminded of the day the Earth stood still, where the aliens didn't find this federation effectively in the day the Earth stood still. They wouldn't get involved until suddenly they had humans had the ability to potentially hurt other alien life on other worlds, and then finally they said, okay, no, you guys don't get to just go on your own trajectory here anymore. I mean, in my personal opinion, the reason we've never seen aliens is quite simply the laws of physics. Like wherever they happen to be, it would take them forever to get here. That's to me, that's the bottom line. Just because I equally think no matter how advanced humanity gets, we're just never really going to, we're never going to get outside of the solar system. Not really. And ethically, I actually don't think it's a good idea either. I have a real problem with the idea of generation ships and all that, because really, I don't want to say enslaving. I think that's a little too strong of a word, but you're not giving your children, which you are a steward of, enough choice really, unless the option is that, okay, we either go on a generation ship or we stay on Earth and the Earth is for some reason dying, or, I don't know. Anyway, but those are all questions that are just kind of crazy and out there. So let's see. Let's go to another one. Besides Bitcoin and Zcash, what are your favorite space monies? Oh boy, that's a good one. Those are the main two that I think about. Litecoin, I do like Litecoin just fine, and a lot of people are actually getting on board with Litecoin. Coinbase now accepts Litecoin. Yours.network, which I think is a very, very interesting project going on, headed by a guy that I have a lot of respect for and I've hung with personally, Ryan X. Charles, who he's kind of behind that. And the exciting thing that they're doing, not just as a content network, which I will certainly be keeping an eye on. And full disclosure, I have asked to be in the early beta. I haven't heard if I got accepted or not, but I did ask. Their main thing that they're going for is the ability to really do microtransactions really well. Well, if they're basing it off Litecoin, guess what? Microtransactions, which is kind of the bread and butter of the future of cryptocurrencies in many ways, not in every way. It doesn't have to be the direction that things go. But that will, that's going to happen in Litecoin. So Litecoin's an exciting one. Those are really the only, honestly, Bitcoin, Zcash, Litecoin, like those are the main three. I used to be excited about NXT. I am not excited about that anymore, even though I don't really think NXT necessarily did anything wrong. Just people don't believe in the network. So there it is. Let's see what else we got here. This show needs more fourth wave Meninism. Let's see. Also, I'm iced out at the moment on some green tea with honey. All right. Rock and roll. What other questions we got in here? I have a ton that I could actually get to, that people have asked me about otherwise. Let's see. Team V'ger. Hell yeah. I love V'ger. That's from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And spoiler alerts. V'ger is actually just Voyager 6. But, anyway, I won't give you any more on that. I love that movie. Star Trek: The Motion Picture is just, I have a rule. I've talked about this before on Patreon. I have a rule that you can't, or it's just in my own head. You can't count franchise movies to be the greatest movie ever made. Meaning that if there's more than one of the movie, if it has sequels or prequels or something, you really can't call it the best movie ever because it relies on other movies, for its kind of story to exist. And certainly it's very true for Star Trek, because you have to count the TV shows. Otherwise, why do you care who Captain Kirk is? But if I didn't have that rule, Star Trek the Motion Picture would easily be my number one film of all time. I think it's just a gorgeous film. So let's see. Perhaps sentience is a quantum phenomenon of entangled particles, and we do live forever. Oh boy, that's getting into a whole other can of words. And Jim Jesus says, my questions are not jokes, they're funny. God damn it. All right. When I die, will I get my own planet, and can I have it built within the Silk Road? No, you can't, because the Mormons are wrong. No, I have Mormon listeners. Relax. I've always said this, like the two things that will always be in the universe, and it's the first thing is not hydrogen. It's going to be stupidity and Mormons, and they are not mutually. I'm not saying one is the other. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying Mormons, they're like the thing that will just always be. It's pretty amazing. So really the answer should just be hydrogen and Mormons, but usually the funny joke that normally gets told is, the two most common things in the universe are hydrogen and stupidity. Maybe those are the most common. The things that will always last, I suppose, would be hydrogen and Mormons. Star Trek, the slow motion picture. Yes, it's very slow. God damn it. That's why I love it. Let's see. Here we got another one. Are there any notable geographic trends in digital currencies? Are any more popular, say, in Europe versus the US? Not that I know of. I don't know that there's any kind of like regionalism going on with that. One could argue that maybe Ethereum's popularity actually stems more from a European mindset or from Europe. Obviously, they're based out of Sweden, I think, right? And yeah, so one of my favorite cryptocurrencies was Aurora Coin. It's not something I'd recommend anybody go investing in now at all, but I love the idea. And Aurora Coin was this cryptocurrency that got developed in Iceland for Iceland, and they did like an airdrop for it in Iceland and everything, and it was based off of Litecoin, which I already said I was a fan of. And the idea was, because at the time, like Iceland was going through some serious bank and overall economic upheaval, and so the theory is that, well, we can have a money for Icelanders by Icelanders and not controlled by the central bank, because another narrative that you get out of Iceland is that Icelanders don't trust banks. Okay, so great idea, and I genuinely do think it's a great idea. I thought Aurora Coin was awesome, but I don't think it really took off. It's not something that went that direction. So yeah, I don't really see any kind of regionalism with currencies, but I'd love for things to go in that direction. I really, really would. I just don't know that it ever will, because globalism or something else. Let's see. Can't believe you can't share links in here. Oh yeah. So anyway, I'll see if I can remember. I'll put this in fact, maybe I can copy and paste it right now. I will put it in the show notes for this episode, and that's the link to Chimera that Benjamin Shade was talking about, which is that potential AI. So let's see. The Book of Mormon musical is the best thing I've ever seen. I hear they're making it into a film right now. I love the Book of Mormon. Actually, Stephanie and I went to Boston to see that with the whole group of people. And that was hilarious. It is, the Book of Mormon is absolutely phenomenal. If you've never had the chance to go see it, it really doesn't matter how to put this. It doesn't matter like who the actor or, who the performers are or whatever, just go see it. That's such a fantastic thing. Okay. All right. See, this is the thing. I don't use YouTube, so I found out that I got to make people moderate. I don't know if that's the most exciting thing for you to hear me talk about. I will get into, I got a question here that I was going to say for Q&A. Now, when you hear this is going to get released very shortly after we're all done, which we're going to wrap this up in about 20 minutes. So the normal Q&A, which isn't live, I'm actually going to release tomorrow. That'll be Thursday. That'll be June 1st. You'll get that. So, but you're getting a Q&A for today that everybody can listen to. So I hope you enjoy it. But I want to get to a question that somebody asked it was asked after the last Hangout that we did. And it's kind of an important point, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I'll bring it up here. So let's see. Trying to gain, this is right from the Patreon page. So you can find it if you go to the community tab. It's like 3 questions down. Trying to gain understanding and not be judgmental. If I am, call me out. Again, this is I'm reading from the person on Patreon. I can handle it. I know you're proud to support the rights of women, minorities, and those outside traditional norms. While I support that fully, I get the sense that you put some groups above other groups. My heritage is Caucasian, mostly Irish, and I'm a heterosexual man. I think he means to say, I don't place myself above or below any group. Or maybe he means I place myself above or below any group. But anyway, I retain the right to judge individuals based on my interaction with him or her. It seems like I'm seeing anti-white and anti-hetero posts from you and others. I believe I'm misunderstanding. So if you could explain where I'm wrong, I would really appreciate it. So, that is a hot button one right there. So anyway, it looks like we got some other people hanging out in the live chat, which is great. Yeah. So, okay, to talk about this. And the person who wrote that, I know who they are, and I consider them a friend, and I know they could take whatever I say, so I'm not like watering anything down. I'm like not anti. So if I make any statements, like I will use the phrase or the term white boy with an I at the end, WHITEBOI and stuff like that. I'll complain about I might even complain about white people. It'll seem like, or let me just get that out of the way. What I'm talking about when I make that kind of statement are white supremacists who have, they didn't come out of nowhere. A lot of them I've seen coming for years, and I've known about it due to, various conversations and maybe even a degree of, some private information. But anyway, and some of these are people that I've known, that I've met, that I've hung with, et cetera, et cetera. And they come right out and they put it like right in their, on their social medias, like descriptions and all this, that they call themselves white supremacists. Maybe they'll say they're white supremacists for peace or which is mind boggling to me. But they'll say this sort of thing. And that's generally who I'm talking about, is like, whenever I'm bringing up that sort of thing, obviously I'm not complaining about white people. One could argue I'm a white person. There's an argument around that, believe it or not, of whether or not Jews are technically white people. And the argument that they're not white people is because, and again, I am ethnically Jewish. But someone says I prefer the term white separatist. Oh boy, with a winky face there. But anyway, there's the argument that, like with Jews, they're not treated the same as the majority of society, of the culture. They're not, counted in with that. So the argument goes is that they're technically not white. I'm not going to go down that road. I don't need to, to do that, but just understand that when if any time I'm saying something about white people, I generally go, I'm really talking about white supremacists. Okay. Because, it's incredible. They're out there now, like they just, and it's mind boggling to me. And I have to, also again, as I am, as I am, like I said, ethnically Jewish, even though, I'm all about, race being a social construct and, gender and all. Of course, we talked about that in recent episodes of Sovryn Tech. I was brought up, with this notion of, being Jewish and all this. And you get taught pretty hard what things, because the idea is that you're looking out for, for Nazism to rise again. And, because it's that whole notion of never again. Right. And, I have to admit my bias that, like, I can get, and I'll use this term, and I know some people have a problem with it, but I'm going to say it, I'll get triggered by some things that I see because it's, I think it's a very primal is in like my childhood. I've been taught it since I was a kid, primal things to look out for of, the potential of the re-rise of a Hitler-esque character. So, yeah, that's really what I'm responding to. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this question, but I just want you to know, like, that I'm really not anti-white. Just like, I'm big on feminism and all this stuff, which the question asker mentioned. And look, I'm not anti-male. I'm not anti-myself. Okay. As far as anti-hetero, another thing where, and this is a big thing in the liberty movement, where everybody's like, no, the way we get to liberty is by having a family, blah, blah, blah. Except third wave. Okay, boy, that's a great point to bring up. Well, just real quick, I'm not anti-hetero. Okay. What? Stephanie's shaking her head.
You're saying like third wave.
Third wave. All right.
The third wave, people criticize third wave feminism don't know what it is. Okay, tell me what first wave and second wave and third wave and fourth wave feminism are.
Okay.
Name a few books about third wave feminism, and then maybe I'll listen to what you have to say about your criticisms of third wave feminism.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully everybody. Hopefully everybody heard all that. So, okay, feminism. I mean, you're raising a great point, Stephanie, is that most of the critics of feminism don't know anything about feminism. Okay. And I agree. There are different waves. There are different, I mean, this is the thing, feminism, like any other belief system or not, I shouldn't say belief system, like any other ideology, okay, has like a lot of different types, a lot of different, I mean, there's sex negative feminists, there's sex positive feminists. Obviously, I don't agree with sex negative feminists. I can understand where they're coming from and I can respect them and their choices, but I don't agree with them. So yeah, I mean, that's an important thing to bring up is when, feminism is such a loaded term. It's a great way to create straw men by just saying, well, feminists say this and I don't agree, blah, 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 blah. And, and then you're already tossing logic and conversation really out the door, at that point. So, even when I bring up like the word feminism, I mean, even in the abstract, especially like 100 years ago, in the abstract, I don't think much of anybody who considers themselves liberty loving or an anarchist or libertarian would argue much with what was, being espoused in feminism because, it was so countercultural. And it was, bringing up points that really no other ideology of its day was really bringing up. I mean, the individualist anarchists, were publishing, feminists or what do you call it? Anarcho-feminists or whatever, across the board. I mean, they didn't have any problem with that because they're just getting out like everything into the realm of ideas. So yeah, fourth wave Meninism. But yeah, anyway, so, and I had MK Lords on recently on a Patreon episode, and she's like, look, no, I don't hate men. I mean, the internet lends itself to talking in broad strokes. That if there's any fault, to some degree, you could blame it on the internet. Because it's such a piss poor communication medium in a very real sense. I mean, that there's a reason why Google Hangouts is the thing and Skype is the thing, because you're trying to get past the inability for nuance and the inability for, having, more direct conversations and all that. So yeah, if I make, if I make very pro gay or pro, I don't know, group sex or whatever stuff like that. I mean, the other part to keep in mind, okay, in all of that, it's not that I'm against what you think. Just like, I mean, and this is such a huge, I bring this point up all the time. If you are for, say, children's rights or for the better treatment of children, because children are not treated well, they arguably throughout, human history, they haven't been. That doesn't necessarily mean you're against old people, right? So just because you're for something doesn't mean you're against, its antithesis or, its opposite or whatever. I mean, it really doesn't. What you're, if you're pro children, you're not against old people. You're just against people getting mistreated, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But also, and I know a lot of people say it's like, well, Brian, you're really like, you never call out the right wingers. You're always, it seems like you're or you call out the right wingers. You never call out the left wingers. It seems like you're defending the left. No, I'm just bringing a different conversation to the table, which has been my mission with Sovryn Tech since the beginning. There's plenty of podcasts. How many more podcasts do you need? Or how many more people do you need to, like call out what the left does? I can call out what the left does, not full stop. I mean, anytime they bring up a political solution, which they do all the time, I completely disagree, like just on its face, so, yeah, like it's not like I'm blind to what the left does. It's just that there's plenty of people talking about what the left does. So I'm going to, it's division of labor. I'll concentrate on this side of things. And that's really it. So just so you understand where I'm coming from, if I ever seem like I'm anti this, anti that, anti that, no, I'm not anti. I'm just trying to bring to light perspectives that I don't see get represented much, which again, the whole reason I created Sovryn Tech was because, I'm not hearing my opinions out there, be it on the radio, on social media, wherever else. So I hope that answered that. And I hope I answered it in like a a kind way, because I appreciate the question, and I definitely can understand where somebody would get that perspective that like somehow I'm anti-white or I'm anti-hetero and all this. I mean, I want people to do whatever the hell they want, but that's the thing, is that, you know, that sort of has to be across the board, is that you got to let people also not practice monogamy, or let them practice, you know, or practice a lot being gay, maybe. I don't know. Anyway. Oh, so all right, let's look at the live chat here for another second. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Absolutely. Whoops. Late to the party. What have I missed? That's actually Daryl W. Perry of FPP.cc. Daryl, you missed everything as usual. You are so up. No, I'm kidding. I love Daryl. Let's see. We don't need another Matt Walsh. Yep, there you go. Absolutely. What other, let's see, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is Seth MacFarlane's Star Trek parody going to be? I actually think that might be pretty good. What is it called? It begins with an O, what it's going to be. Seth MacFarlane has this, like, a Star Trek parody, but apparently the people that have seen it so far said that it's really not too much of a comedy. Like, it's actually pretty straight shooting, and it's pretty good. It's like the Orville or something like that, not Redenbacher. But something along those lines. I'm interested to see how that's going to shape up, and of course, I'm still very interested to see Star Trek Discovery. So let's see. I do the same thing. This is Jim Jesus talking here. I do the same thing. I go after the right more than left, because left bashing is an oversaturated market. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you hit it, Jim. That's exactly it. Is that, like, it's so oversaturated. I mean, yeah, I could call on it all, but I mean, I can only type so much in a day, and, you know, might as well, like, let's call bullshit, and, you know, let's start shining some light in areas where it's a little dark. That's all. And I think, you know, I mean, I get really annoyed. I think the right gets a lot of passes, you know, and I don't really you know, at the end of the day, I don't identify with the left or the right at all. You know, I mean, like, I like to think I'm space above and beyond. Woo. That was a classic show there. But yeah, left bashing is an oversaturated market. Totally agree. So let's see. Did you discuss SegWit 2X UASF? No, have not discussed that. And we've only got about 10 minutes. I think that would be a little deep to get into. I think it's interesting. You know, I mentioned this briefly earlier. I think it's very interesting that a lot of the big companies and a lot of developers are starting to look at Litecoin very, very seriously. And that is really something to watch out for. Let's see. Not true. Another person says, not true in my environment. I think left or right bashing depends on where you live. Yeah, there's some truth to that. I think a lot of people, like, there's people who, and I understand this. I mean, I don't really see it where I live, but there's people who say that, well, you know, this rise of white nationalism, that's not real. That's not actually happening. But I think in cities, and I think a lot of other areas, oh yeah, it's happening. I think these places are, you know, people who say, oh, we don't need feminism anymore, blah, blah, blah. I just saw the story earlier today. Wonder Woman's getting banned in Lebanon, the country of Lebanon. And it's like, really? You think the world still doesn't need feminism? When, I mean, there's no official report as to, or no official reason given yet as to why Wonder Woman has been banned in Lebanon. But again, it's where you live. Yeah, feminism's still needed there. Okay, so does that mean that the whole world should, or you know, does that mean that you can't study it if you don't live in Lebanon? No, of course you still can, because obviously there's areas where, you know, there's a light that still needs to get shined. So yeah, it does depend to some degree on where you live. Got to be equally critical with both of them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, be critical of both of them, absolutely. But, you know, it's not very equal, because everybody's just left bashing, kind of like Jim was saying there. So yeah, I'm with you on that. They both get passes. Can't stand either of them. Yep, I agree. I heard it was because the star is Israeli. Oh, this is with Wonder Woman. So yeah, so this is one of the theories going right now is because Gal Gadot is Israeli. That means that, you know, and as far as I know, she doesn't have any children, so she didn't get the pass from serving in the Israeli military, in the IDF. She served for 2 years, and so the argument would be that, you know, in Lebanon they would see her as potentially like a murderer or something, and so they won't allow it because she was part of the Israeli military. That's possible, but I think at the same time, you know, I would not be surprised at all. Like, I still don't know that there's official word on that, but I would not be surprised at all that it really has to, or at least maybe it's half and half, but that part of it has to do that we're talking about a seriously strong female character That is not something that people look very kindly upon. I mean, look how long it took to get her in the movies when everybody else has already had entire like reboots and and all this stuff. I mean, yeah, there was the great on TV, there was Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, but that wasn't, I mean, let's be clear here. And I'm a huge fan of the 70s Wonder Woman. I mean, I'm a big fan. All 3 seasons, I loved it. First off, Steve Trevor in that really kind of had to steal the show. And I mean, many times, like the writers were kind of forced into that, but also it was campy. It wasn't serious. It was treated more like a comedy or a kid show. So people thought like, okay, this is fine. Just like at the same time you had Almighty Isis, right? On Saturday mornings back in the 70s. I wasn't even alive. I know this shit. But at the time, I mean, it was all seen as kid stuff, campy and not very serious. So you could kind of get away with it. It took this long to come out with a serious, Wonder Woman film. So yeah, I think there's definitely, kind of a pushback still to this day, I think, to having strong female characters. I mean, maybe now it's finally changed a bit. And you can bring up examples of Ripley. You could bring up examples of Sarah Connor. Well, understand that with Terminator 1, that was an underground hit with Sarah Connor. And Sarah Connor was not the badass that, everybody thinks of her as now from Terminator 2, right? And with Ripley, I think that just that snuck in, and again, it became like this sleeper hit. And so then James Cameron was like, okay, well, I can take this character the rest of the way. But beforehand, you kind of had to dupe people into having strong female characters. Gene Roddenberry talks about this all the time with Star Trek back in the 60s. He really, he had to dupe people. And then in the 70s, a lot of it's the same deal. So anyway, let's see here. Anarchists in Europe are generally radical left, anti-fascist. Yep, sure. Quite a few of them are. Let's see. It's about time in the noughts, right bashing was the thing because they were in control. The left has been in power for 8 years, so that's the thing to bash. Give it time, right bashing will be back. Yeah, probably. Let's see. Also, the right in Europe is nothing like the right in the New World. The right there are a bunch of socialists. Yeah, the right in Europe is big government. The left is just bigger. Yeah, this is an interesting perspective, and the tech world actually brings this really to light. And we'll wrap this up soon. But like it seems in boy, how to put this in America, you have, especially in the tech world, the attitude is not trusting government, but trusting corporations, as to where in Europe, it's the opposite. There's this trust in government, but not trusting corporations at all. Which is why you see so much of the legislation against Google and whatever else. I think that there's definitely that. I mean, and like even the term libertarian originally was a reference to communists like over 100 years ago, So, I mean, yeah, in other parts of the world, things are incredibly different. I think there's a lot of common ground to be had though. And in fact, I know some people who traveled Europe pretty good, and they get to enjoy the benefits of a lot of the older, even if they don't agree with them 100% ideologically, but a lot of the older anarchist movements in certain areas of the world, they get to enjoy the benefits of living in those areas where, anarchists weren't taking any shit not so long ago, or even 100 years ago or something like that. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Let's see. We got something from Jacob here. Posted this earlier, but you missed it. This is not something I've researched, but do you think there's a secret manned space program? And if so, what are they doing? Ooh, boy. Yeah. So there's some interesting evidence to suggest, yes, that there is a secret manned space program. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who he was a Scottish guy. And his case just ended. I talked about it on Sovryn Tech. I keep forgetting his name, but he not really hacked. He just got access to, because at the time, this would have been like, maybe it was like 2001 or something like that. Server security wasn't even necessarily so much a thing, at least, over TCP/IP, over the big bad internet. And this guy got into, U.S. DOD. He got into, Department of Defense and everything. And he found like these listings of ships. Yeah, not Sean Connery. He found that you've been playing both sides, right? That Entrapment, the movie he did with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Whew, love that movie. Anyway, he found like these listings, and this is a true story. Like, I mean, this isn't something as far as like the interpretation of what this guy found. That's where conspiracy, comes in. But otherwise, this is factual. It happened. He got tried for it and all that. And he found listings of ships that weren't in the U.S. Navy, but they were like kind of listed as active. And so the question was, what the hell are these ships? And so the theory becomes that they're actually spaceships, that like it's a U.S. Star Navy effectively. And there's other guys that have written about this sort of stuff. Thomas Horn. You could go down the list of names that think that there's actually like what they call breakaway civilizations, that literally there are entire other like governments or organizations that already exist within our solar system, that, where humans are living and they left the Earth like decades ago, even. So do I think that? Oh boy. I don't have enough evidence really to say yes, but there's plenty of evidence to where I don't feel comfortable saying no either. So maybe I'll go with the Fox Mulder answer and just say, I want to believe. Well, I don't know if I want to believe it, but one thing for sure that I can say is that, in fact, there's a great documentary, not a conspiracy theory. It's, it's not an Alex Jones documentary where it's full of shit. But like just a straight up documentary, called, Secret Space. Or the Secret Space Program, I think is the name of it. And it talks about how really the entire purpose of NASA, well, originally NASA was part of the U.S. Army, right? But the original purpose of the space program, I should say more particularly, was just to be able to spy, to watch humanity from the stars, like, to watch the Earth and spy on everybody and whatever. And that's what really, the space race was really all about, that was who has the advantage, from space. Over the people of Earth, not about actually exploring space. That's the argument that documentary makes, and I think that's accurate, because really, what incentive does government have to like want to go up and cure diseases, by going into space? Because that's the argument that gets made. Why do we have a space program? Well, it helps us learn about the Earth. It helps us develop medical technologies, and then a lot of that stuff is really happening, but none of those are really good incentives for a government or the U.S. Army, right? So why did they do it? And I think, the answer that it was really all about control. It was all about, being able to spy on the populace of the planet Earth, etc. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. So, okay. So now it's we got some thunder and lightning here. So I'm somewhat concerned the power might go out. That actually happened yesterday while Stephanie and I were playing Dr. Mario. Oh, right in the middle. I was just about to win. Damn. But anyway, let me get into one other question here. It's 5:30, so I want to wrap this up. Let's see. Just curious, do you like the Godfather films? Lighter question. Yeah, I like them. I don't hold them in the esteem that a lot of people do. And here's, I guess, maybe the most important part of this question, even though it's not there, is do you like the Godfather 3? Yes. I didn't mind Godfather 3 at all. So yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of them. I love Mario Puzo's books. Big fan of Mario Puzo's books. Which go far beyond, The Godfather and all that. The Last Don and, all those, which they made movies out of some of those too. And those are fairly good. I kind of dig, it may be a question for another time, but I have a special appreciation for, shall we say, the mafia, which has to do partly with where I grew up and people I may have grown up with. But that's that's another one of those can of worms. So anyway, okay, it is 5:30 now, and I like I said, I am kind of concerned the power might go out here. So I think I will wrap this up. That secret manned space program, that's a conversation that could go on for a good long while. That I enjoy quite a bit. That gets into, there's the book, by Leslie Watkins, Alternative 3, which talks about that there was a joint space program with Russia and the U.S. They went to Mars in the 60s. Like their claim is they went there in like 1968 or 1969 that they went to Mars. That gets into some pretty wild shit. So let's see. One person says, knew some wise guys, did you? And there we go. And then the other person that asked the question about the Godfather originally said, woo, 3 is great. Yes, it is. I really enjoyed that. And then it says, stay close to the Vorlons. That is great advice. Definitely stay close to the Vorlons. And of course, people that have watched Babylon 5 will know exactly what that's all about. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to wrap this baby up and we'll put this to bed. And then maybe I'm going to get something to eat and then do, who knows what else. So there we go. Great. Thank you, everybody that was on. It was great to have the two people in Hangout. It was great to converse, with the private chat. I hope that didn't come off as boring at all. Of course, you can let me know. You can actually send me some of that negative feedback that we were talking about earlier, and let me know. And I'm actually, I'm a very nice guy, so I can take it. So hope that answered everything. And there it is. I'll see you on the other side. Like I said, Q&A episode, that'll be out, or official Q&A episode will be out tomorrow. It'll be out on Thursday, June 1st for you. I didn't want to overload this. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.